Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is the animation for the characters. The artists provided us with great models. We really liked them. They fit the genre. The character plays off very well. But having handmade animations really do not look as nice as I'd like them to look. So we use the motion capture lab that's over here to capture Sam, to capture his motions and apply them directly to the character. It's a very, very aggravating process. It takes quite a bit of time, but it looks much nicer, as you guys can see. It really adds a nice effect and a little bit of realism to just how the characters move and the way they're animated. I guess we'll just do a little demo right now and blow each other up.
Oh, you're not worth your salt. You're stinks.
Okay, well, the sky is, it's a sky. The graphic engine we were using has a really terrible sky. It's completely horrible, doesn't look anything like a real sky. This is that times 100. Each file is multiple layers that are linked together to give that three-dimensional effect. This is one of the things that I work on. You can actually see multiple layers, but if you hit it from an angle that's not directly perpendicular to it, it will look like a volumetric file. It's very nice effect. We also have water. It does not work very well. The water that we use is not very complete. It's very experimental. And we don't have it right now, but we would have water coming off of the end of the dock. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is the music. Our musicians provide us with some great music. We really like most of the stuff they provide for us. Everything that they do is in excess. We probably put together quite a few things. Whistle noises and punches and effects and background music. We just sample the background music and type files. It's that good. Well, this is pretty much all of our project. We spent all semester working on it, living in the game lab, literally, probably about 10 to 12 hours a day for some of us. Everybody who wasn't working was in there when they could be. And we're a great learning experience. We all have fun, and I hope that you guys take a look at our game.
Okay, the next project is by the group that, actually I named them, I like it. It's called the Space Cadets. And their project is called Arachnotopia. I don't know how to spell it.
My name is Haley, and I'm the group leader for Arachnotopia. Like Brandon mentioned, most of us are graduate students, not all of us. Oddly, so much you have to keep track of. Even 4 years of undergrad will prepare you for it. When we started, like Sam put together an idea for their team, but we weren't real sure what we wanted to do. So the first, second class period, we all got together and we said, you know, what do we want to make a game about? Somebody said, well, why don't we make the main character a spider and make it like in an insect world? And that seemed like a very visually interesting idea because, I mean, you see people all the time. How often do you get to see insects close up? And then what kind of game do we make? Well, some people wanted to make a platformer with basic objective is to explore the world and defeat any enemies you find along the way. Some people want to make real-time strategy where you control a base and minions or soldiers and have to defeat other bases to take over the world. And then we said, well, why don't we combine them? Instead of traditional real-time strategy, where the player basically acts as God and control every unit and tell exactly what to do, we let the player control a single unit, which is the king spider. And through that spider, they interact with both the world and their own base to try to take down other bases. And once we had that, we had to figure out, well, how on earth are we going to do this? And Todd and Bobby actually put together an architecture that we could then use to create the game, so I'm going to let them talk about that.
I'm Bobby. Alright, so this is not, me and Todd at least, this was not our first time through it. We're kind of veterans at this by now, so we knew how bad it is. Actually, it's kind of an anecdote. I'll tell you, the first time me and Todd went through this, we decided, well, throughout the last month, we each had our own little branch of code. I was working on a huge structure, he was working on one, and our project leader at the time, David, was working on another. And these were all different versions of the game. So I'd say the night before the presentation, we decided, okay, we'll merge everything. Well, but they weren't quite done, so I decided to go get a couple hours nap. Now, the fun part is when I came back about an hour before the presentation, David comes to me and says, we broke the game. So I can say the next hour before the presentation was very stressful and interesting at that point. But we learned from that we need to plan ahead. So I started out working with the managers and Todd started out working with the unit structure. And just as a brief overview here, this is a game engine design I come up with through a little bit of research and a lot of trial and error experience. And you see here we basically have different files for each manager. So when people work on different aspects, like we have, you know, the collision detection department and artificial intelligence department, they all work in their own files. So there's not a lot of collisions, there's not a lot of overlap, and they communicate effectively in a very object-oriented manner. Todd took care of all the unit structures, so I'll let him introduce those, although we don't have a picture to represent.
All right, so whenever you're going to see the game, you're going to see units in the world. You're going to see insects, bugs, and you can see them, but behind the scenes, there's code there. There's an object in code that represents each unit, and that's what I work on. And all the different units all have relationships to each other and with the manager that Bobby was talking about. So that's what I did as the unit structure. This, you know, the relationships and the different objects and things like that.
This was up and running in a couple of weeks, and we got off to a really great start for this game this time around. We've actually been on task for most of the time. It wasn't much of a rush job.